the intricacies of food handling and offer valuable insights to ensure we maintain a safe and healthy diet. But before that, let's go for a quick break, and when we return, I will have the pleasure to introduce her to you. Don't go away.
Hi, my name is Quinstanifi and I play the role of Emily in the YOLO TV series. For accurate information and support on contraception, pregnancy, and other sexual and reproductive health issues, call the Agoshi Plus toll-free line 5100 for MTN and 0800001122 for all networks. Good life, live it well. Good life, it's an everyday thing. YOLO, you only live once. YOLO, you only live once.
Welcome back to Nutrition Hour. If you just joined us, we are about to begin our discussion for today. And today we are joined by Madam Portia Manyaya, a nutritionist at the King's Medical Center in Kumbungu. Portia, welcome back to Nutrition Hour.
Thank you.
So today we are looking at a very crucial issue around the food chain. We are looking at food handling. First of all, what is food handling and what is its importance?
Okay, so fortunately, last week on the 7th of June, 2022, we had our World Food Safety Day celebration. And food handling, it's a very simple and self-explanatory word. It's the way we manage food right from the farm to our tables. So how we manage food, that is transportation, processing, manufacturing, distribution, wholesaling, retailing, everything that has to do with food moving from one person to the other is food handling.
Wow. So if I may, what are some common health hazards and food products encountered through the supply chain?
You know, in handling of food, you have to realize that at every point in time, the food is very vulnerable. So like I said, from the farm to our tables, remember that a farmer will have to cultivate these food items. Someone will have to come and harvest it, probably dehusk it and process it for transportation from the farm to wherever they are going to keep it. And these food substances are very prone to damages such as breakage. So when foods are brought out of its comfortable zone, so for example, granite is harvested and it's still in the shell, we break open and we take out the granite from it and we are transporting it. When the granite breaks into two, anything is possible to get in contact with these food products. So right from the farm to our tables, we have to recognize that we have physical hazards, we have biological hazards, we have chemical hazards that would have affected these food substances. And at every point in time, these hazards are very harmful to our system.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned food vulnerability. How vulnerable is food?
Very vulnerable, because the state of food can change with any little pressure given to it. So I made mention of physical hazards. When you find any foreign substance that's not supposed to be in your food, the chances are that food might change its taste, it might change its looks or its color, it might change everything, consistency can change. So these food hazards are supposed to be checked at every point in time. We have a very long chain, and the how long the chain is shouldn't pose threats at every point, but we can actually check all these things to know that by the time this food gets to my table, it is safe for consumption.
So considering the food chain in Ghana, which aspect do we normally have issues with?
To me, we have issues from the manufacturing to the distribution, even though every part of this chain has issues. But I feel that from manufacturing to distribution is where our issues are mostly found. So let's take which product? Let me not mention product. Let's just say tomato paste. Okay. So tomato paste, the manufacturer would have manufactured it. Let's assume it's been manufactured in a very hygienic place, well handled and well packaged. Then they're supposed to move this particular tomato paste from the south, because we don't have any tomato manufacturing company in the north. From the south to the north. The cargo that is coming with it, temperatures will change at a point. The tins can be dented. When they bring it to this wholesaler or this distributor, at what temperature are they going to keep this tomato paste? How are they going to make sure that what the damages that had been caused before are kept? So I feel the major point where we have issues with is from the manufacturing, the factory, to when it gets to the distributor that I go to buy, is where the issues are.
So how do I know if, for instance, the food I just purchased from the market or from a grocery shop is well handled?
Okay, so when food is contaminated, you can easily see in some foods.
In some foods?
Yes, in some foods, you can easily see. You have to notice that we have beneficial microbacteria, microorganisms. These microorganisms, they are beneficial because we use them to process our foods, such as yeast. We use yeast to bake bread. So without yeast, your bread will not rise. We have cultures that we use for yogurt. Without this culture, the yogurt will not yogurt. Do you get?
Yeah.
We have microorganisms that are destructive. Their presence is to show you that I'm around, I'm available. But we have pathogenic microorganisms that are very, very dangerous when we ingest it. So when you get into a shop or into the market, foods like meat, meat is one of the food items that you can easily tell if it is spoiled. Foods can change color. You see beef that is supposed to be a bit brown, it's a bit greenish, it's spoiled. You don't need to bite it. And the meat will change smell. It will not be smelling meat. It will have a very bad smell. And I've learned from the market women that when meat is spoiled, meat, fish, egg, when it's spoiled, these green, big flies tend to settle on those ones. So if you have 3 bowls of meat or a crate of egg or fish lying down in a pan or just there, you realize that these green, fat, well-nourished flies tend to settle on that one thing, that one food, meat substance, or that egg or that fish. Then you can easily tell that this particular thing is spoiled. For milk products, to know that milk products is spoiled is to see that the consistency has changed. It tends to cheese, a bit of cheese-like content. I think a couple of months ago, we saw on social media, specifically Facebook, where people will open their milk tins, and instead of a liquid substance, it was more like a caked substance. So I don't need a prophet to tell me that this milk is spoiled. As for vegetables, sometimes they become very softer. Example is carrots. You buy carrots, you don't, preserve it very well, and then carrots tends to become soft. It is not soft because your teeth cannot chew the carrot. It has become soft because microorganisms have feasted on it, and they have actually multiplied and has made the carrot unwholesome for you to consume. So these are some of the tips you can use to get to know if foods are expired. For tomato paste, sometimes you see that the lid of the tomato paste will rise. It will come up small, and when you open it, you hear poof. What are you puffing? Is it fizzy drink you are puffing? So these are some of the things you can actually use to know if your food is unwholesome.
So most of these examples that you gave are food that are not packaged, right? So what about packaged food products? Because you mentioned tomato paste just in your last submission, but then moving further from just tomato paste and then to other well-packaged food products, how do you know if it is not handled well?
Okay, so I think that for packaged products, they would have written manufacturing date and probably expiry date.
Yeah.
You can't go to a shop and start opening packaged food to see which of these have a different color or a different taste or smell or something. But I can easily make use of the expiry date.
Yeah.
And I feel people usually have a bit of confusion when it comes to expiry dates, best before, used before, used by.
Yeah.
You see, when you see used by, it simply means that after that date, it becomes unwholesome. It is poisonous for you to eat it. But when you see best before simply says it's by itself. This food substance is at its maximum potency when you eat it before this date. However, when you eat it after this date, the quality of this food is no longer guaranteed, but its safety would be a bit, guaranteed. But for use by, the safety of the food is not guaranteed. That means it's declared unwholesome or poisonous. So one way to know if this food is wholesome or otherwise is to check the expiry date. Again, when you go and it feels like this particular food container is malhandled, some of these things can fall down and change shape. Don't take it, such as rusted tins. You've seen a bit of rusting on the tin and you feel, oh, it's just small. Do you know the depth of that particular rusting point that could have contaminated the content of the food? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So these things are ways to get to know if your food is wholesome or not. A typical example is some motor kings, that's tricycle, carrying drinks to go to villages to sell. You realize that they pass through the sun morning, afternoon, evening. If they don't finish selling, they will bring it back. Yeah. The next day, they will take it back again. To the point that you pick a drink that is supposed to be lemon green in color. The lemon green is faded. Is a bit lighter than the lemon green you are expecting it to be. And someone will say, oh, it's the sun. And we joyfully drink because they say it's the sun. Nothing has happened to it. It's still sealed, but the color is not the same. Remember I said microbes change the color of food. So all these things are unwholesome because they've passed through a compromised temperature. So you can tell from the color. But unfortunately, Ghanaians, we don't like reading. Yeah.
So how can improper handling of food contribute to food losing its nutritional value?
All right. So I want to talk about some fortified foods. So you're actually supposed to eat fortified, say rice, fortified rice. And then the fortified rice comes and they tell you that don't wash because maybe this particular fortification is water laving. If you dip it into water, you would have washed out this fortification.
Yeah.
Then because you are very careless, you decide or not decide, you mistakenly drop this rice or it falls on the floor, then you collect it back and say because they say I shouldn't wash. You don't wash it. Then you cook it. First of all, the food is contaminated, so the nutritional value that you'd have had, you've added more unnecessary things to it. So you won't get the nutritional value that the food promised you. Yeah. And then I mentioned rusting earlier on. So the container or packaging of this particular food substance has suffered in the hands of man and has had some rusting. It has come in contact with water and oxygen and the tin has rusted. Then you think that is not anything, let me eat. Heavy metals can, compromise the nutritional qualities of this food.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So with this, what are some of the key principles of food handling that you think everyone should be aware of?
All right, so you have to keep the food clean. That's the first principle. Keep the food clean. separate raw from cooked foods. I was making an example earlier today, and I said the same knife you use to cut the onions is the same knife without washing it. It's the same knife you use to cut tomatoes. It's all going into the same pot, of course. That's what you're going to tell me.
It looks like you are guilty playing some of us now.
You say, I think it is a very common practice in our homes. You want to eat gari soakings with oil and then some KKZ, you know, inside the gari. You cut your onions, slice your onions, and say, where's the tomato? The tomato, you just pass it through the water. Yeah. Provided the tomato looks wet, you've washed it. Okay, I won't talk about that. You cut it again and add. Someone, if they have green pepper, they use the same knife. Remember that what is in the onion is not the same thing in the tomatoes or in the green pepper you are cutting. You would have carried microorganisms from this onion to the tomato.
So we are expected to use different knives?
Not different knives. After cutting, wash it.
Okay.
Just wash it. I feel lazy to cook when there's no running water. My house people would attest to this. When the tap is not flowing, I can't carry water from a pan, come and wash the knife, now come and use it to cut. But if the tap is flowing, I know that, if I just cut, just and I wash, cut. But this is something we don't usually do in our houses, you know. So I think we have to start. White man say do this. It's white man that brought chemical to spray the farm. See, after spraying, wash it. He say you won't wash because your fathers didn't wash. What are you looking for? Sickness.
Okay, so if you just joined us, this is the nutrition hour. We go for a quick break, and when we are back, the discussion continues.
Charlie, what's up? My name is Odenche. Some of you call me mini sharpshooter, but make I give you brotherly advice. For all your sexual reproductive health rights information, counseling and referral services, call the Agushi Plus helpline on toll-free numbers 5100 on MTN or 0800 001122 on all networks. Be assured of your confidentiality. Agushi Plus helpline, we there for you. Good life is an everyday thing. Good life, live it well. YOLO, you only live once. Peace out.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Nutrition Hour, and today we are discussing food handling. And with us to share her insights on the topic is Madam Portia Manyaya. Portia, so what are some of the most significant food handling issues, and how can we prevent them?
Okay, so poor hygiene is one.
Yeah.
Poor hygiene.
It was like,
You see, most of the time we just feel that when the food is cooked well, then there's no way the food can be contaminated. You go to buy food from someone, and then you realize that the environment everywhere is neat, okay? But the ones serving you, actually serving, like chewing gum, the mouth is open, talking. I will not buy. Hygiene is very, very important. Not hygiene when you are cooking alone. Hygiene when you are serving the food is very, very important. It's a source or factor to food contamination. The cross-contamination I mentioned, like using the same knife to cut different food substances without washing after use. And cooking thoroughly. Some people do not know how to cook food. Cooking food thoroughly is very, very important. And again, keeping food at the right temperatures. The scientists will tell you that at very cold temperature, there are some microorganisms that perform better. That means they grow well in cold conditions. Others too will grow well in very hot conditions. Others too will grow well if the condition is not cold or hot. So the food item you are handling, you should know at what temperature you should keep it. Some pre-packaged food items, they will tell you keep at room temperature. Keep refrigerated when opened. Don't do over sabi. Follow it. They know what organism this product is prone to when kept in this condition.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we also have inadequate storage spaces. So this inadequate storage space, in my kitchen, I have very limited space where I keep edible and inedible things. So I mix food with soap, for example, food with chemicals. This can cause unwholesomeness of food. That's when you go to prepare your oats and you are smelling geisha in the oats.
Yeah.
Where from geisha? Did you use geisha to prepare the oats? It's because you didn't store it well. You didn't keep food at food place, soap at soap place. So these things are factors that can contaminate your food.
Wow. So, can food be contaminated during the preparatory stage?
Yes.
Okay, because I think I've heard this severally. People say, okay, you know what? Let me just cook it. If I cook it, all the germs will die. So how does this happen?
So like I was telling you, there are some organisms, they grow very well in very hot conditions. There are some organisms, if you want to cook it from today till tomorrow, like you are cooking cowpea,
Yeah.
it doesn't move them. That's when they get energy to reproduce. So know what organism you are boiling or know what kind of food you are cooking.
So you are just charging,
Some
recharging.
organisms, as you set fire, they are rejoicing because this is the favorable, condition for them to reproduce children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Then they will plan and attack you after eating it.
You sound so savage with it.
Yes, when they attack you, they will nourish your body.
So are there some, common food safety practices that everyone should implement in their daily lives?
Yes. I'm sure the food standards, Ghana Food Standards Authority or Ghana Food Standards Board, any of those.
FDA.
No, not the FDA.
Not
Ghana
FDA.
Standards Authority. That's it.
Ghana Standards Authority.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they will always talk to you about HACCP. HACCP.
Okay.
This is something everybody should be cautious about. Hazard analysis and critical control points.
Can you throw a little light on that?
Of course, I will. So when you pick the food, you should be aware of some of the hazards that this food is prone to. Then, at what point is this hazard likely to be energized and to reproduce?
Yeah.
So when you pick waakye, sometimes or most of the time, it's like at every point in time, someone has one way or the other experiences. You are eating waakye, then you buy something like a stone. Of course, you will not keep it in your mouth. You spit it out. This is a physical hazard. You can see it and you can remove it. And if before you swallow your food, you see it, you have to remove it, right?
Yeah.
But there are some microorganisms or some hazards that are biological. Just like a mice has chopped your bread. What you do as Arafat is to cut that part, Nabi, the mouth of the mice.
Yeah, just that portion.
And make sure that this bread doesn't go waste.
No.
You would devour it.
Yeah.
As you are devouring it, the mice beat a part where you saw. Do you know what the mice has deposited in the bread? And do you know to what extent this content that the mice left has traveled throughout the bread? Your mice will come and chop your your mice will come and chop your mattress. You won't cut it. You won't cut it, right?
Mattress is not edible.
Don't worry, but they can chop it.
Yeah.
You won't cut that portion. What do? You find a way to probably lift it or make sure
Turn it
that
over.
this mattress will not be eaten by the mice again and sleep on it. It shouldn't be down to food. Just like you said, we don't eat mattress. Mice can chop the mattress part. You still sleep on it. But when it comes to food like bread, you cut it. Why are you doing that to yourself?
Portia, why are you asking me this question?
I'm asking your viewer. Please, I'm asking you, viewer. Why do you cut that part and then throw it away and devour the rest?
Okay, now
You are
this
going
is
to
for
fall
you.
sick.
This is for you. So, Portia, if I may, what role does temperature control play in food preparation?
Food preparation. Temperature controls the amount of nutrients you get from the food. Temperature controls what organism grows in your food. You see, so temperature has two roles. In as much as it is cooking your food, the WHO will tell you that after making sure that there's good hygiene, after making sure that you have separated your raw foods from cooked food, make sure that you cook your food thoroughly. Make sure you cook your food thoroughly.
Yeah.
Because maybe some nutrients that have some organisms that have tempered with the structure of the food would have died when you cook the food. But be rest assured that some nutrients too will die as you are subjecting this food substance to heat. A typical example I want to use is the green leafy vegetables. So you realize that your green leafy vegetable has become a bit softer than it was. It's just a sign that the food is spoiling.
Yeah.
Then you say, oh, after when I cook it, it's going to become soft. So I'll cook it to kill the germs before I'll eat it. Okay, sister, continue cooking to kill the germs. When you are done cooking to kill the germs, you are eating water with color because you will not get anything from the food. In as much as you are killing germs with temperature, you are killing nutrients with temperature. So temperature tells the favorable the favorable conditions you present to the microorganism to feast on.
So, before we continue, I think I have a question from Kobna. His question is, you talked about cooking at the right temperature. How do I know the temperature for cooking, say, contomere? So, and even for how long must I cook it for? So I think what Kobna is basically trying to ask is, so for instance, if he's cooking contomere, what is the right temperature that he has to cook contomere under, and how long is it supposed to last?
Okay, I think it's either Kwabna, it's either Kwabna is a chef or a bachelor. Yeah, but I think in our part of the world, we don't use thermometers to cook, but somewhere they have thermometers they use to cook.
Exactly.
But one thing you have to know is most microbes do very well under 10 to 60 degrees Celsius. So like room temperature, almost room temperature. Room temperature should be like 30 there. The environment internally heat.
Yeah.
And this heat will not be the same heat you use to cook the food. So something hotter than what we feel around us, a bit above what we feel around us, should be like the 10 to the 60 degrees Celsius. That most organisms do well under. Some also do well in very colder conditions, like the negatives. So when the fridge is frozen, some do very well. So if you want to cook your food, cook it like you are cooking it. Fire temperature is the temperature we should use to cook, per what I've said. So the temperature around us can be is falling between the 10 to 60 degrees. Okay. When it rains, we get a bit of cold temperature, maybe 20 degrees. Have we reached 20 degrees in Tamale before? So say 25 degrees there. That's like our normal temperature here. So a bit above our normal temperature. So that day is very hot. That's where organisms do very well. So when it comes to food, when it's translated to food, the food is like warm, not hot. By in cooking his contomere, he has to cook it. So the temperature will be higher than what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So probably he would have gotten rid of some microorganisms in the contomere. But what I've realized is people overcook contomere. So in this case, our focus as a nutritionist is not just the microbes, it's the nutrient value. People prefer to boil their contomere to very soft. The next day they are heating it again
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like the statement I made, you are eating color, not the nutritional value the contomere would have given you, or you are eating leaves, if I should say. Okay, so the right time to cook your contomere, at most 5 minutes, your contomere should be ready.
Yeah.
That's when you cut it into the stew or the base you've made. Your leaves should have been okay for consumption in about 5 minutes. Okay. Contomere is not supposed to be very soft. When it's very soft, tomorrow when you heat it again, which soft are you looking for? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yes, so Kojo. This is to Kobna.
Okay. So what are some of the physical signs that an individual should notice to be able to tell food spoilage?
Physical signs. Let's take egg for an example. When you go to buy egg and you see that there are so many dark spots on the egg, change it. That's one way to know that egg is spoiled. Yeah. Because when you go to buy egg in a supermarket, you don't have the luxury of time to fetch water into a container and dip the egg inside to know if the egg is spoiled or not. But when an egg is spoiled, the weight is very less, it's very light. When you try shaking it to here, you'll be hearing so much of movement. And when you pick fresh egg, you see that when you shake it, it's, even though you don't see the content, but it's more of a jelly movement. But a spoiled egg is more of water movement. It's easy to shake and it's very light and there's dark spots. Then another thing is look out for color of fruits. Especially fruits you know. This is not the time to come and say, let me try this, when you don't even know it. You don't know the original color, you don't know the original taste. It's not bad to try things, but when you are looking for safety, don't go looking for foods you've never seen, because you don't know whether the food is in the original color or smell. Yeah. So you can easily check for color of food to know if your food is wholesome or not.
Color, so it changes from the original to something else.
Imagine you see tomato paste. That is black. You know that tomato paste is supposed to be a bit of reddish brown. Yeah. Or females say like wine color. But this particular tomato paste is like black.
That's trouble.
Exactly. But if you didn't know what tomato paste look like, would you know it's not supposed to be black?
Yeah.
Sometimes you go to buy onions. You pick the onions and the outer part of the onion, the peels, if I should call it, that part is darker and there are some maggots, small maggots on it. Then the seller will just remove that part and sell it to you. Then you collect. You are in trouble.
Okay, so are there any emerging trends or technology in food handling and safety that we should know?
Emerging trends.
Yeah.
And technologies in food handling.
Yeah.
I think some food items have a bit of technology when it comes to storage. Like some distributors have, how do they call those vans? The vans that has fridges in it.
I'm not sure.
Those people that sell yogurts to further places, fishes to further places, they have come up with this.
I know something like a food truck.
Food truck that has a cold room in it, kind of. Yeah. So instead of transporting fish, hoping that putting ice pack on it, sometimes we used to put ice block on the fish so that it won't spoil before it gets wherever you are going to. But now technology has brought those vans. Yeah. So I can transport any food that is supposed to be very cold or frozen to a place and to not spoil. Yeah. So that's a form of technology. Another technology is those vans that are covered. So they are not just keeping the food in a Kia truck that has nothing to cover it, and all the God-given sun would scorch on the item before it gets to you. You don't even understand whether the food was hot, it was boiling on the truck, or it was being carried by the truck. So these are technologies we've come up with. And technology has given us the opportunity to be able to write expiry or manufacturing dates that cannot be easily cleaned out. It's a machine they use to just write it on. So you can easily see when I should use this and when not to use this. And some storage instructions too are able to be inscripted on the packaging of the item.
So this reminds me of your earlier submission where you mentioned using one knife to cut, different food items. What about blenders?
Blenders.
So what would be your advice to people, because we are talking technology now, and with blenders, you go to some houses, you see one person using blenders one blender for vegetables, say ice kinky, they want to prepare ice kinky, they want to blend fruit juice, they use the same blender. What would be your advice to people like that in terms of food safety?
It's the same thing, just wash it. Okay, so I've seen houses that they say, borrow me your blender.
Yeah.
Lend me your blender. Then you lend the blender out, and because you just blended tomatoes, they'll say, oh, it's the same thing, don't worry, I'll also blend tomatoes. The tomatoes, is it poto tomatoes or is wholesome tomatoes? Sometimes we shouldn't just take things for granted. We shouldn't take things for granted. After using your blender to blend your tomatoes, wash it, rinse it before using it for the other one. The fact that they are all going into one pot doesn't mean that you should blend them the same. If you can't cut them with the same knife without washing intermittently, why do you think you can blend them together? I'm sure people will say, I'll just blend them together, and then when it enters into the pot and the heat starts, it will kill the germs. Or they will say African germs are not too harmful. These germs that are coming, they are no longer in Africa. They are coming from somewhere.
So please, let me take your final words.
All right, so in this food chain we are talking about, we are not talking about only farmers, retailers, or whoever that brings the food item to you. You are part of it. You are a major stakeholder when it comes to food safety and everything that has to do with it. Because if you buy food from me and you don't handle it well and you eat contaminated food, you are surely going to suffer from foodborne illnesses. So please, this thing we are talking about is not just at the shops level or the farm levels or the warehouse levels. It talks about your home and what you put on your table for your family to eat. So take charge of your health before thinking of anybody's contribution to making your health a success for you. So, as you have heard today, make sure that your food is wholesome at every given time and eat well so that you don't have to come to the hospital and spend all your investments and savings in the hospital. Your life matters to you first before any other person.
Thank you. Your life matters to you before any other person. We are all stakeholders when it comes to maintaining proper food safety. One way or the other, we are all connected, and what affects you affects the immediate person next to you. This has been the Nutrition Hour, and we came live to you from Gyra Lodge, your home away from home. Anytime you are in Tamale and you need a resting bed, Gyra Lodge is definitely the place for you. This program is brought to you by the Nutrition in Retail Project, funded by the World Food Program. This has been the Nutrition Hour. Stay safe. See you same time next week. Bye.
Hello, my name is Jason Edwards, aka Psycho, aka since the 80s, aka the Florida Man. Ever need reliable and confidential information and support for your sexual and reproductive health, counseling, or psychosocial needs? Agoshi Plus has got you. Call 5100 on MTN and 0800001122 on all networks. Good life. Live it well. Good life. It's an everyday thing. YOLO, you only live once.
You only live once. You only live once.
Hi, my name is Anna Mampofa Bebio, and I play the role of Ariana in your favorite TV series, YOLO. Do you want to take control of your sexual and reproductive health and rights? Let me introduce you to the Agoshi Plus Helpline. Agoshi Plus offers information on education, sexual and reproductive health and rights, and counseling. Even if you need a referral to a health facility, a specialist or social justice institution, we've got you. Give us a call on our toll-free numbers 5100 on MTN and 0800 001122 on all networks. Call now and let's have that confidential, frank conversation. Good life, it's an everyday thing. Good life, live it well. YOLO, you only live once.